The following is based on what Dr. Lulsegged Alameya presented to the Ethiopian Minister of Education on 18 June 2001 concerning the alarmingly deteriorated quality of education of his country. His findings were based on the assessment he made as an independent consultant in the MTR of ESDP World Bank-led evaluation mission February 2001. He brought the problems and along with tested remedies to the attention of Her Excellency the Minister of Education but was ignored. Capacity Deficiency in Management of Education in Ethiopia by Dr. Lulsegged Alameya H.M. Lulsegged December 2001 Open Proposal, Implementation Long Overdue. Today in Ethiopia there is a great deal of talk about capacity building, with a ministry and branch offices created for it at the federal level and throughout the federation down to the Kabyle level. For some reason, however, its concept, ideas and ideals do not seem to synchronize with our country's university and training institutions whose activities should be giving services to rise and shine instead of decaying under the archaic ivory tower practices. Ever since the idea of the modern system of higher education was introduced into our country, it has not been sufficiently geared for national development both in quantity and quality. The admission opportunities are often limited to those small numbers of young people who are declared successful on the quota-based discriminatory qualification of high school leavers. Placement is dictated regardless of the individual young man's aspirations, wishes, interests and inclination. Many of our young people who are unsuccessful high school leavers, however, do not get placement in the higher education and would be wasting as useless in unproductive corners of the cities and towns throughout the country without alternatives. The situation makes one question as to whether because the young people really failed because the classroom learning which is often taught in a strange language and is unconstructive, uninteresting and unrelated materials to life and work, badly taught, boringly presented, etc., or as if they have really failed life. No wonder we are beleaguered with illiteracy, abject poverty, disease and hunger in the midst of untapped wealth and plenty. I wonder why we cannot learn from the history of other developed nations from whom we took the ideas and not the practice of educating the young for self-reliance and his nation's growth and development. For example, it has been over 100 years since the first railway system was introduced into Ethiopia by the great Emperor Menelik II at the cost of breaking up part of his country and giving it away for the establishers. The small crude train of narrow gauge which snails from Djibouti to Addis Ababa is still the same, while in Europe, from where the idea first came, trains run up to 300 kilometers per hour, crisscrossing the cities and the countries on broad gauge lines over land, underground at subterranean levels and under the sea. Could not our so-called failures young people create the web of railway lines throughout our country like the American westward movement did in the 1880s? The main concern I have at this juncture is, however, the capacity building of institutional executive leaders who make a difference in the life of the child and youth and indeed the future of our nation. After this area had been neglected for a very long time, it is just now beginning to pick up. However, is it being done qualitatively, adequately, and appropriately? A master's degree level of professional preparation is appropriate, but is this too luxurious when we consider the future of the nation in terms of a child and youth who should grow up to actively participate and constructively contribute to the growth and development of his nation and his people? The prelude for this proposal, the letter to the Minister of Education. On June 18, 2001, I presented a letter to the Ethiopian Minister of Education concerning the alarm I had about the situation of the status of education of our country in the Amhara and Tigray regions. This was based mainly on my findings working as a participant in my capacity as an independent consultant in February that year in the MTR of ESDP evaluation mission. I brought to the attention of Her Excellency the Minister of Education some of my observations regarding the quality of our educational system, which I believed was continually declining. As a result, I suggested means to arrest the situation. However, it received a deaf ear. Further approaching the vice minister did not do any better. The main ideas were that in spite of the rapid quantitative growth of our education today, its management has been archaic, uncomplimentary, and degenerating. As the result, the planning and execution of the educational policies at the grassroots level were poorly organized and ill-managed. Among other things, this was mainly due to assigning of classroom teachers to institutional executive leadership positions without any preparation in professional management, educational administration, and supervision. To make matters worse, these people were elected by colleagues from among their rank. Happily, this election system is now changing. During that exercise in one of the large region, the Amhara, where my team visited, we were fortunate to find all the education officers of the regional, zonal, and Werda assembled for their annual meeting at Bahir Dar. We were allowed to meet them, and one of the questions I asked them was, when do children are able to read simple sentences? The question was based on the complaints that parents have and we were made aware of before we left for mission. My question was promptly answered and bluntly put, that it was in the 3rd grade. The answer indicating that the schools are making their children ignorant. In the good old days, in my time of teaching, for sure, children were able to read in the 2nd or 3rd month of the 1st grade, not the 3rd grade after 3 years. The textbook I wrote in 1957 under Point 4 Education, after much research and experimentation, and which was widely published and used throughout the country for almost 2 decades, was precisely to serve this purpose, to teach children to begin reading in the 2nd or the 3rd month after reception into the 1st grade. By today's public school standard, the traditional village preschool is and has been doing better. The problem? Today, the main problem is that schools are poorly and inappropriately managed. I in fact believe that there is very little awareness regarding the necessity to manage schools professionally. Presently, school principals are appointed by election from among the teaching staff who do not understand what management is. Management in this respect is the placement, coordination, guidance, and harmonization of the efforts of differing groups of professional people in the institution, the organization of educational facilities and other vital educational resources, and the effective and efficient use of time to achieve educational goals. As has been reiterated in A.H.M. Lulsegged's research study, teaching and management in education cannot be the same. See Attachment 3 for the complete version of the published research article. Unlike teaching, if we look deeper into the school executive manager's main tasks, we find that, among other things, they consist of how to get teachers and other professional employees of the education system committed to achieve the desired goals and objectives of the institution. 2. How to productively engage their school personnel to maximize their achievement. 3. How to maximize scarce resources to facilitate maximum possible teaching and learning. 4. How to evaluate performance progressively and upgrade the competence of those engaged on. 5. How to release the potential of each member of his staff to heighten his motivation and commitment, to enhance his confidence that will help him to successfully progress on his job. 6. How to create an atmosphere of higher morale and its concomitant cooperation. This list can go on. However, it is clear from the above that the job of the manager is a web of complex tasks of leading people to make things happen through their efforts. Such leaders must then be made through training. Normally, even though there may be rare exceptions, no ordinary teacher, however good he may be in teaching, can be made to manage institutions without acquiring the necessary skills of a manager. What can be done? Today, formalized and systematic efforts to train school principals and other administrative officers are imperative if Ethiopian education is to bear better and good fruits. Our government and people are spending a large proportion of the public fund on schooling and to improve its quality and to realize knowledge that is the most powerful engine of production to enable us to subdue nature and satisfy our wants. For us now, Catching up with the remaining developing world is critical, pressing, and urgent if we have to assure our survival in this technologically highly developed world. It is a shame to have a continuously hungry population when that same population has been richly blessed with fertile soil that is complemented by abundant overground and underground water and available technology to harness and use it. All we need is sound education that leads to scientific and technological know-how. There must be a way of repeating what the U.S. .4 education did in the 1950s and 60s, uplifting the quality of educational attainment, delivery, and services in Ethiopia. .4 was fully and genuinely involved in every field of development and had big offices attached to almost every ministry, and independently creating one where there were no ministry. El Maya University was the child of .4. In education, they were involved in all the activities of planning. The first 10 years plan was done then: curriculum development, textbooks production, publishing and distribution, etc. Even schools had a school magazines then which reached every child in the remotest part throughout the country. They were involved in the summer teacher upgrading and refresher courses. In all their activities, counterpart training to eventually replace them was important, and scores of us were sent to United States annually, first for 2-year training, then for an additional 2 years for a degree in the field of service we had been engaged. To single out the subject in question, administration and supervision of instruction, to improve the teaching and learning, Martha Sorensen, a member of the .4, did miracles at the Haile Selassie University, the present Addis Ababa University, specially preparing elementary school principals and supervisors. Their all-round management preparation gave them the necessary professional administrative skills and supervisory competence, which included demonstrated dedication and commitment to the profession, as well as internal and personal motivation for the work they did. In Addis Ababa, for example, administrators and supervisors like Otto Fantasy Tekol Selassie, Otto Mibrat Ashager, Otto Getachew Jizu, are among many who may be cited for their monumental service. Whatever happened in between school administration and supervision by people prepared for it died out and was replaced by elected classroom teachers from among the teaching staff who has no exposure to the necessary skills. Today, the magnitude of the problem has sharply risen due to the concern for management development skills that is vital for the efficient and effective achievement of instructional goals and objectives, manifested as a direct result of one or more of the following. 1. The increasing complexity in the operation of modern schools, greatly expanded educational opportunities, the diversification of the curriculum to make education of the child and youth relevant, specialization and professionalization of the teachers, the introduction of computers and other modern electronic gadgets in schools, etc. The rising expectations placed upon institutions by government, parents, and the society to prepare children and youths who can intelligently participate in and productively contribute to the economy of their country. The rising cost of operating modern institutions, coupled with the growing demand for cost-effectiveness and accountability for the achievement of objectives. The growing assumption that good executive managers can be made through training in what could be considered a successful practice in management. The increasing demand that those who are managing institutions must be professionally competent. The way forward: providing a well-conceptualized program of management development that will have a fuller, durable, and effective value geared toward preparing a career professional practicing educational administrators and supervisor is imperative. We must realize that people make things happen, but they must be armed with confidence that can only come with knowledge and skill. The College of Education, for its part, should begin to accept all those who come for education and training with a minimum qualification, if at all screening is needed for admission, without making it difficult for applicants. Particularly teachers who have been serving for a number of years and who have a good inclination for management should in fact be encouraged to upgrade themselves by being admitted for a higher degree if they so wish and can afford it. once accepted, the choice of the package they follow out of the college catalog should be clearly planned at the beginning so that they know what they cover, when they begin and when they finish. The knowledge of the program itself is a motivator. Administrative/supervisory practitioners in education for the professional Ms.C. or M.Ed degree should be given an in-depth practical preparation rather than being constrained with theories and a writing of a non-useful thesis or dissertation. Instead, they should be given, if necessary, a comprehensive examination over the courses they have taken, or B, assignment of practicum for on-the-job assessment, or C, writing theses, as there are those academicians who may always like to write. All the same, their qualification at the end of their program should be measured by the kind of sharpness they have developed to solve practical problems of education and the schools, and not by the dissertation or theses they write. As external examiner, quite a few of the master theses I examined at Addis Ababa University are not worth the paper they are produced on. For a full-time student, a master's degree program should not take more than the normal semester-weighted 30 credit hours, and which should not normally go beyond 1 year, summer included or not. To qualify for graduation, a student should count the number of required credit hours he completes in the shortest possible time rather than the number of months or years he stays in the college. It is unfair and indeed a punishment to compel extension and/or part-time students to make them stay double the amount of time it takes a regular student to complete a degree or a diploma. Let us cut out the idea of a professional student. With flexible scheduling, adequate electives, lengthening the evening hours, an extension student may be able to finish his certification objectives when he completes the number of credit hours instead of the double time. Let us remember that life in general and career life, working life, in particular, are short, and students do want to see the fruits of their diplomas and degrees in their prime life on the jobs they do, in the earnings they make, and in any creative or independent ventures they want to engage in sooner than later in life. Principals and supervisors who are already holding their first degree have been attending the college in summers, and I was told that it will take them 3 summers for a diploma. These people should have been admitted for the master's degree in the first place, which could be completed in the same 3 summers fixed for diploma. The summer could be weighed in semester credit hours equivalency, as 18 regular semester weeks divided by 12 summer weeks will give us 1.5 weightage, which means 1 semester credit hour becomes 1.5 summer semester equivalent credit hours. Thus, a person attending 3 summers registering for a minimum of 10 credit hours will have completed his requirements for a master's degree. Thus, I do not understand where a diploma comes in. I understand that there are floods of applicants at every entry point, but only a handful are picked upon whatever criteria. Why should it be like this? Why curb the aspirations of people? Why not accept all, or if that creates a problem, then all those who can satisfy the most minimum admission criteria? The idea of present-day postgraduate education and training was born, cultivated and refined by American educators like David Starr Jordan, who brought the idea from Bohemian education in the mid-1850s. Why then don't we follow the way the Americans educate their people? Quite a number of us were educated there, and we know how it works. Let us look briefly how their affluence and greatness generated and grew in the United States. What brought the American affluence and all-round greatness? In a nutshell, among many, many other things, it is their belief in education and their push to making every one of their children to be all they are capable of being through education. It is not because they are a different breed of human beings. It isn't because they are superhuman. It is the moral act of the U.S. Congress, 1862, which provided grants of land to states to finance the establishment of colleges specializing in agriculture and the mechanical arts. Those colleges are today the gigantic multi-college state universities in each state, which helped man to subdue nature through science and technology, as well as revolutionizing the agromechanical production and agro-industrial processing of food by the insignificant few for the significant masses. It is the opportunities the GI Bills created for the American young people returning from the World War II and the Korean War which helped the masses of the GIs to get university education. Whatever their background, they were allowed admission into all kinds of institutions of higher learning. Receiving the masses of these young people in the manner they did, the universities were forced to set up temporary accommodations and classrooms, expanding their program offerings. Additional teaching manpower with more constructions, additional programs which grew unabated to their amorphous size we see today. M. Stanley wrote about the impact of the young people of GI Bill as follows. The mid-century GI Bills were the largest direct scholarship program for higher education in American history. The combination of the Korean War and World War II GI Bills probably increased total post-secondary attainment among all men born between 1921 and 1933 by about 15 to 20%, with smaller effects for surrounding cohorts. Thus, the results of the GI Bill's scholarship contributed to the American dreams of affluence, fame, greatness, and wealth, with greater surge into the scientific and technological supremacy. It is the belief that if the individual wanted to attend college, he could do so without any hindrance. For example, the Californian state education system provides for any young person who is 18 and above, if she wishes to attend college, she could do it irrespective of her finishing high school. If she completes the 2-year junior college of associate degree successfully, she could transfer to the senior college for a further 2 years for the bachelor's degree unhampered. The remaining is an open highway. Today, to reach all the people wherever they may be, and to make sure that every aspiring individual will get his education and training to his heart's content, old, traditional institutions of learning as well as new, fresh, and young universities across the land have opened up fresh opportunities for everyone and are knocking at every door for online degrees. It is designed for working adults as well as anyone who has an interest in studying. One such example is the Tennessee Board of Regents Campus Collaborative Regents online degree programs. The following is their advertisement. Working together to meet statewide education and workforce needs. The Tennessee Board of Regents Technology Centers, community colleges, and universities have joined in a collaborative, strategic planning effort to offer the Regents Online Degree Programs, RODP, and the Regents Online Continuing Education and Workforce Development, ROS. No matter where you live, where you are in life, or where you're going, you have a world of educational and workforce training opportunities right at your computer 24 hours to 7 days a week. Their service of online degree programs is also benefiting other countries including ours. For instance, McKell University. *RODP was rated as one of the top 3 virtual programs in the nation, USA, by the Center for Academic Transformation Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, 2003, recognized by SREC for online student services, showcased as an exemplary system-wide model at the National WebCT International Conference, 2003, selected as the Virtual University of Choice by the Asian American Educational Support Center in Bangladesh, India, 2004, and invited to serve as the international partner for online cross-cultural educational teaching and learning exchanges and online faculty professional development training for McKell University, Ethiopia, 2005. The affluence of Great Britain. After World War II, Great Britain was concerned about the wastage of the human brain power through neglecting the masses who can't afford to attend the private schools. Thus, action was taken to democratize and popularize public school system to reach every child and youth of the land. This in short contributed to bring about the dynamic society that brought about Britain's continuous growing economy, making it one of the richest nations in the world. The Japanese greatness. It would be appropriate to pick up the book by the great Ethiopian writer Kebede Michael, who wrote decades ago, literally meaning, "How did Japan got civilized?" Though the book was written for us to follow suit and learn from their examples about half a century ago, it did not wake us up from our sleep. Educationally, Japan had the highest rate of literacy in the world, close to 100% in the 1960s. Other countries. Many countries both in Asia and Africa have grown in leaps and bounds in the last 3 to 4 decades, while we are stagnating in the midst of unrealized abundance of potentials, brain power, uncultivated talents, and literally untouched mineral wealth. B.F. Carter of Johns Hopkins University wrote of Ethiopia in his Man and the Land, a Cultural Geography. Ethiopia has nearly twice the land area of France. High rainfalls on high mountains indicate great potential water power. Considerable deposits of gold, coal, rock salt, sulfur, phosphate rock, copper, lead, iron, mercury, platinum, tin, petroleum, mica, potash, and tungsten are known, although only a few of them are mined commercially. But such an array of mineral resources is possessed by very few countries of this earth. Ethiopia's lack is therefore not of the physical goods of this world. Her present status is the result of 1,000 years of isolation and a virtual absence of education associated with nearly complete lack of productivity. When would our people rise from the abject poverty to live like decent human beings on their God-given fortune of plenty? I believe this is up to our institutions, on whom the responsibility to prepare and upbring the child and youth in the right kind of useful and practical education.